Hey there everybody, welcome back to the Ocarina of Time Dungeon Guide. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Ice Cavern. This is a sort of mini dungeon that takes place right before the Water Temple. This is a very short dungeon. It's only got a few rooms to it, but it is required in order to get an item that we'll need to enter the Water Temple. This first room here is pretty simple. The only thing we got to do is kill all of these Freezered enemies. Freezard? They kind of look like the Armos enemies from the Dodongo's Cavern. Those statues that would come to life if you touched them. The three of them in the center of the room sit kind of... They don't move. While as there's a fourth one that kind of disappears and wanders around. It's kind of interesting how they kind of come in two different flavors. So if it disappears on you like that right there, just wait a few seconds and it'll pop back up again. You can also hit them with the hook shot and drag yourself towards them, which is kind of nice for getting a quick kill before they shoot ice at you or disappear. If you get hit by the ice, you will get frozen. Eventually you'll kind of break free on your own, but I believe you can wiggle the control stick and you'll break free faster. In this room here, we got some of these Silver Rupees to collect. I'm not sure if we've seen these yet in Ocarina of Time. This may be the first time. But as you collect them, you'll hear a little musical tune. Collect them all, and something will happen. In this case, a door will open. If you take a second to look around in this room, you'll see some red ice, some almost like walls. There's one off to the right over there. That's actually going to be pretty important later on. It's pretty hard to tell, but there's actually paths to go behind those sections of red ice. And we're going to figure out a way to melt that red ice here in a few seconds. This is just a basic hallway right here. We don't need to worry about killing that enemy there or looking for anything. We just pass right on through. And here we're going to see quite a few enemies. Luckily we don't have to take them out this time. But off in the distance there you will see that blue fire. That's very important. That's actually something that you can bottle up. And by dumping it on stuff, that's actually how we are going to melt all of the red ice that we find in the Ice Cavern. Whether it's the big red sheets of the red ice that's blocking hallways or the red crystals that sometimes have items inside. In fact, there's one red crystal in this room that has a large chest in it. That's actually the map. So I suggest filling up as many bottles as you have up with this blue fire. Unfortunately, I only have one bottle, so I may have to do a couple of extra trips. But you might have, 2 or 3 bottles. I do, again, even if it means, dumping out or consuming whatever it is you have in those bottles, if it's a fairy or something, I really think you should just go ahead and empty those and fill them up. I'll be coming over here and, again, melting that ice crystal. You can see how that works now. Unfortunately, you can't pick up the blue fire when it's on the ground. You can't cheat it like that. I know with the magic bean spots, when you put bugs in them, if you know what I'm talking about. If you dump the bugs onto the magic bean spot, sometimes, or usually, you can swipe up a bug real quick, and it's like you didn't even use your bugs. The blue fire does not work that way. So you do have to fill it back up after every time you use it. And I won't say why, in case you're concerned about spoilers, but you really do want to take at least one blue fire with you out of the Ice Cavern. Like, once you're done in here, you really want to take at least 1. 2 if you can swing it, for reasons outside of the dungeon. We've come back to this room. This is where we collected those Silver Rupees, and there's 2 sheets of red ice in this room, and both have pathways behind them. And I actually screwed up. I meant to show off the other path, and I did not do it. I completely forgot to do it, so we're actually not going to see that in this footage. If you take blue fire and melt the other sheet of ice, that will go into another room, and that's where the compass is. So I actually, in this footage here, we don't collect the compass, which isn't really a big deal. I mean, we're very close to being done with this dungeon already. But if you kind of want a 100% Ocarina of Time, you'll want to go down that other pathway as well. In this room, we got more Silver Rupees to collect, and we've got this sort of little sliding block puzzle that we get to work on while we're collecting those. Watch out for the frozen keys, they're very annoying. If you're really fast, you can actually slash, you can do like a vertical slash and hit them before they get you, but it's pretty hard to do sometimes. Here's a cool little trick here. Obviously, this is a red crystal. You can use blue fire to melt it, but if you jump slash at it kind of on the right-hand side there, you can actually collect the Silver Rupee without melting it, which is kind of handy. It's not very hard to do, so go ahead and give that a shot if you want to try an easy little glitch there. Otherwise, if you have trouble with that, or if you don't want to do glitches, there is blue fire in this room. It's kind of on the far side wall there. You can see it off to the sort of the left there. Accidentally jumping up on top of that. I've also pushed this block in the wrong way. You can definitely make a mistake when pushing this block around. You know, you can kind of push the puzzle into a state where you can't, you know, properly do it anymore. And if that happens, just push the block off the ledge there, and it'll respawn and start over, and you can try again. So no shame in having to make a few attempts at this puzzle. I'm not very good at these sliding block puzzles. These types of puzzles are in a lot of different games, and it kind of requires you to sort of think multiple steps ahead, and most of the time, as I'm sitting on the couch playing video games, I just... Depends on the puzzle, but sometimes I just don't really want to try in that way. There's a nice little trick there. Instead of pushing the block all the way against the wall, which would, you know, make it impossible to proceed, you can actually make that jump off of that pillar there. That's very nice. Nice little pickup. Otherwise, you'd have to restart the whole puzzle. And there we go. That was the 5th Silver Rupee. And we're able to push this block home over here. That hallway that block is sliding to right now is the one that just opened. And you do need to have the block there in order to reach that. That jump's just a little bit too tall for Link to reach. So you'll need a stepping stool there. And this is just one last little hallway. There is some, as you can see, some red ice crystals right here. This luckily is pretty much the last time we'll need to use blue fire, at least within the dungeon, unless you missed the compass like I did and you want to get it. And finally, we're going to reach this room right here, and we're going to have a little boss fight, a little mini boss fight, one of these white wolves, which are pretty trivial if you wait for them to attack. They'll do the 1-2 attack, and they'll spin around and expose their back. And if you jump slash at them, as you can see, you will one-shot that whole boss fight, if you want to call it that at all. And after killing that enemy, a big chest will appear, and inside are going to be the iron boots, which we are going to be very familiar with in the water temple that's coming up next. So yes, get ready to toggle those on and off and on and off a million times. That's basically what the water temple is all about. Floating and sinking. But I guess that's a different video. As you can see, Sheik has appeared, and she's going to teach us the Serenade of Water, which is pretty convenient because that'll teleport us right to the water temple. But I'm sure at this point you know how to learn a new Ocarina song, so we'll go ahead and skip on through that. And really, that's about it for the Ice Cavern. Normally there'd be, you know, a big boss fight that would create a blue warp that would teleport us, you know, to a different location in the game. But this being sort of a mini dungeon, that's just not going to happen. So at this point, you could play the Serenade of Water and go straight to the water temple, but I'm willing to bet that you'll need to go back to Zora's Domain to get one last item before you're really ready to tackle that dungeon. So if you put on the iron boots over here, you can actually sink down, go through an underwater door, which is kind of cool, and this will lead to one of the first rooms in the Ice Cavern, so a nice little shortcut back to the beginning of the dungeon. And if we drop down here and stick to the right side cavern, this will lead back to Zora's Fountain, and eventually Zora's Domain, and that is pretty much it for the Ice Cavern. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Coming up next is going to be the infamous Water Temple. That, of course, is what many consider to be the hardest temple in the game, so I hope you stay tuned for that, and I'll see you in the next one.